Hey gang, today we're going to be talking about Jenny's Wedding, a film that tried. It tried very hard. So Jenny's Wedding was made in 2015. It is described as an American romantic dramedy, so that's a really good sign. I don't think Jenny's Wedding is a bad movie, but I think it does a bad job of doing what it tries to do. Some people could say that's basically the same thing. I don't think Jenny is poorly made. I just don't think that it does anything very useful. So Jenny is a woman who is going to tell her conservative Catholic family that she's getting married, but the twist is that she's getting married to a woman. Wow. In the opening credits, you see a series of black and white pictures of white heterosexual people getting married. As the credits go on, you see more and more pictures of straight white people getting married. As we know, only white people get married, and that's why it's important to remind us of that fact. It sets up that the theme of the movie is marriage. It is about institutions, it is about expectation, it is about history and tradition. The first scene takes place at a baptism, presumably like a niece or nephew of Jenny's. And of course we see the Catholic Church, the enemy of gay people, and once again reinforcing that tradition and institutions are a major theme in the movie. The very first words that we hear Jenny say are, "What if I don't believe in Satan?" Basically immediately introducing her as someone who disrupts major institutions such as the church and pretty soon marriage. Initially, it is very relatable. Jenny is subjected to a lot of these little family shenanigans, such as trying to be set up with a heterosexual man that she is clearly not going to be interested in, and constantly being subjected to questions of, when are you going to have a baby? When are you getting married? That stuff that happens a lot. That's very relatable. And in the next scene, we meet Jenny's roommate, Kitty. And the entire point of this scene is to trick the audience into thinking that these two are just roommates, to have this big reveal at the end of the scene that Kitty is actually the person that Jenny has been dating. But knowing that at the end, it makes this couple seem like the most dispassionate, boring, unromantic pair who don't even seem like they like each other very much.
Did you tell him who you want to marry?
No.
Well, don't you think you should tell him you're marrying me before the ceremony?
Don't you think you should tell your dad I'm the love of your life, who you love very much? And that's the tone that they kind of stick with for the rest of the movie. Even though this movie is seemingly surrounding a wedding that is happening between Jenny and Kitty, we see Kitty for 3 scenes in this entire thing. And the chemistry that Katherine Heigl and Alexis Bledel have is non-existent. What makes this movie a little bit different than a lot of other coming out stories is that the actual coming out happens very early in the movie, within the first 20 minutes. And so the rest of the movie is not necessarily about coming out, but it's about acceptance, and it is about the theme of dismantling institutions and dismantling traditions. Which sounds all well and good, but the tone of the movie is just so weird. In the scene where Jenny comes out to her mom, she is like,
I have to tell Anne and Michael. I'm gonna tell everybody. Kitty and I want to get married, Mom.
As if she's a lawyer trying to appeal to a judge, rather than a daughter expressing excitement to her mother that she's going to be with the love of her life forever. So the movie really tries to hit you over the head with how traditional Jenny's parents are by just the way their house is. The kitchen is pink. The master bedroom is pink. It looks like every spot of the house is pink. The house almost could be a set piece in But I'm a Cheerleader. And the idea, of course, being that Jenny grew up in this very traditional world that has very strict gender roles and expectations for people, and she is trying to fight against that. And you can compare that to the apartment that Jenny and Kitty have together, which is a lot more sleek and modern. It has windows to look outwards into the real world rather than being trapped and stifled. So then after she comes out to her parents, another theme emerges in the movie, which is secrets. Although she has told her parents, her mom in particular wants her to not tell anybody else. So Jenny, in the pursuit of telling the truth, ends up actually telling more lies than ever. The movie then goes back and forth between being from Jenny's perspective and being from her parents' perspective, which I think could potentially be interesting, if not for the fact that Jenny's parents, all they do is talk about how much they're struggling with Jenny being a lesbian. It's so boring. You see a repetition of events in which like something happens between the parents and Jenny, and then the parents go and talk about it and digest it, and then you see Jenny having another interaction with her family member about her being gay, and then the parents talk about it again and digest what just happened. There aren't a lot of emotional stakes in the movie because the question really becomes, are Jenny's parents going to accept their gay daughter? Which is not a bad question. That's not a bad plot point. The problem is that there doesn't seem to be a consequence either way. If Jenny's parents do not accept that Jenny is gay, so what? Jenny doesn't seem like she likes being around her family anyway. She is constantly annoyed when she's around them. She doesn't really talk about fun things. There doesn't seem to be a lot of emotional resonance with the family, and so it doesn't seem like a loss if Jenny doesn't have her parents, and if the parents lose Jenny because she doesn't want to wait for them to accept her anymore. Because ultimately it's very obvious that eventually Jenny's parents are going to accept her, but there isn't really a journey that makes watching it particularly engaging. If Jenny didn't come out to her parents within the first 20 minutes of the movie, maybe if we saw her having more really positive interactions with her family, instead of the opening credits being about the institution of marriage, the opening credits are about seeing Jenny grow up in this family and seeing how much she's changed through her parents' eyes, that would be really interesting. So this movie is billed as a dramedy, which implies that there is comedy in this. I didn't really experience that until this scene in which it unintentionally made me laugh out loud for several minutes. Jenny kind of confronts her mom about trying to force her to keep it a secret, and she wants to be like, no more lies, I'm going to come out.
The lying is over. You and Dad are gonna have to make up your mind about me because I am getting married. And I'm going to have children. I am going to have a happy and full life. And I'm not hiding it anymore. So if you can't handle that, it'll have to be your problem from now on, not mine.
And I can't change, even if I tried, even if I wanted to.
The director clearly heard this song and she was like, I gotta put this in somewhere. She's already filmed the entire movie and was not planning on any kind of musical interlude, and so she was like, I guess I'll just put it right here. I'm kind of imagining the number of songs you could put into this and it would make just as little sense as the intended song.
So if you can't handle that, it'll have to be your problem from now on, not mine.
What you say? That you only meant well, 'cause you did.
Pretty much the only clear-cut accepting discussion she has with a family member is her brother, who proceeds to lecture her about why she shouldn't hide herself. Thanks, straight white guy. Really needed that advice. The only side storyline in this movie is Anne's relationship with her husband, which is bad. Her husband is not putting in the work or effort to making this a good relationship, and Anne's relationship with her husband is actually a really nice foil for Jenny's relationship with Kitty. Jenny is reprimanded for not upholding these traditional values and having a traditional marriage, while Anne, who on paper does have all that, is actually very unsatisfied, and the relationship is very unequal. Anne sees that her front lawn is just filled with dead grass. There's just toys all over it because no one has been keeping it up, no one has been taking care of the lawn, and it's symbolic of her marriage. And so she decides to basically roll up her sleeves and try to tend to the lawn herself. The lawn, of course, being a traditionally masculine thing that men often do in relationships. And so I like that. I actually thought that was a really cool metaphor for her taking ownership of her relationship while also defying traditional standards she has tried so hard to uphold. To me, the really confusing thing is that in a movie like this, in which it is so insular that it's about the family, Kitty should really function as kind of a mediator between Jenny and her family. Kitty should be the person who tells Jenny that, hey, You got to be patient with your family. It's going to take time. In the beginning, Kitty kind of does that by just shoving Jenny into telling her family that she's gay, but Kitty performs no useful functions for the rest of the movie. Why even have Kitty in this movie if she's not going to be some kind of emotional foil to Jenny? How about we see what Kitty's family is like? We see that there's a huge difference, and maybe Kitty can talk about how, like, it was a lot of work, it took a lot of struggle, but ultimately is worth it because I set my boundaries and my family was able to accept it. Or conversely, you could have this interesting dichotomy in which Kitty's family has actually been 100% accepting the entire time, and so Jenny is struggling with how easy it was for Kitty, but how difficult it is for her. Meanwhile, Kitty is trying her best to support Jenny. Basically, what I'm saying is that Kitty needs to, like, not be useless in this movie. You just kind of see Kitty be there while Jenny just, like, rails against her family, monologues against her neighbors, and is just very spiteful. There are monologues in this movie that Jenny gives that I think are actually very, very good. It's all about how she no longer cares about what her parents think about her, that she is trying to live her life for herself, and that she is willing to sacrifice her relationship with her parents if they do not accept her life with Kitty. I think those are really great sentiments. It's just so weird that there isn't more about Jenny and Kitty digesting what's happening. Things turn around when other people start being mean about Jenny in front of the parents. One neighbor is like, yeah, I think it's great that you're gonna turn your back on her. And then Jenny's mom kind of has an epiphany that, like, actually that's not what she wants to do at all. There's no amount of frustration and confusion that I have that outweighs the love for my daughter. And if you thought that was an eloquent way to put it, rest assured that the movie is in no way that eloquent. She basically just walks away from this neighbor while happy alternative music plays in the background.
Christmas will be hard, but just remember you're doing the right thing. And anytime you want to talk, I'm right here.
Jenny plays almost no role in her parents actually becoming more accepting of her. It more comes from a retaliation against the homophobia of their neighbors and friends and co-workers, which is a choice. It means that they kind of become allies when it really counts. But it also means that their relationship with their daughter is actually pretty immaterial to their acceptance of her. That it more relies on them seeing homophobia and realizing that they don't like it anymore. Eventually we get to a point where the big question of the film is whether Jenny's dad is going to show up to the wedding. Her mom is totally on board and reformed and is going to try, but her dad is still, like, stubborn and set in his ways. And because, of course, he does show up to the wedding, Jenny sees him and she's, like, kind of relieved to see him, but there's not a lot of joy and excitement as per usual in this movie. So yeah, Jenny and Kitty are able to get married. Jenny's family is present, all of them. No word on whether Kitty's family is there. That's kind of weird. Basically, the film posits that tradition can exist even within non-traditional forms and that you shouldn't write somebody off because they don't fit the model that you were expecting them. I think the wedding is fine. Again, I don't really believe that Katherine Heigl and Alexis Bledel have been in love for 5 years and are finally relieved to be marrying each other. But I think the message is still very sweet. And the wedding reception is very cute. Those are the only moments I really feel Jenny and Kitty are really in love with each other. I think the last moment of the film is really cute. Jenny and Kitty are having this nice little dance together. Meanwhile, Jenny's parents are kind of meandering around the dance hall and they eventually find each other and hug each other. And that is like a form of reconciliation because they had kind of been at odds for a while throughout the whole movie. But that solidifies their love for each other and sets everything right. And, you know, the entire credits roll and you just see a bunch of people dancing at the reception, which is, like, pretty cute. Even though it's a movie that is centralized around a gay character coming out, there's almost nothing gay that happens in it. There's very little romance between Jenny and Kitty. Almost all of the screen time is actually devoted to the straight characters and the straight characters kind of reacting to the coming out, but not really addressing her specifically in a lot of ways. And even when we get to the wedding, there's not a lot of focus on the love between the gay characters. It's more of a vehicle for us to, like, find out whether the straight characters accept it. If you watch this movie expecting some kind of romantic comedy but with some coming out splashes in it, this is not the movie. This is like a straight up family drama. Also, the fact that like her name is Kitty, I don't know if that's just like a genius lesbian pun or a very unfortunate accidental name. I just don't know which one that is. This is a small thing, but like, I thought it was so weird that Jenny and Kitty were trying on wedding dresses together. Isn't that something where you still want to surprise your spouse at your wedding with what your outfits look like? Like, why are they doing that together? I'm sure it happens with some lesbians, but I feel like that's such a heterosexual conception. That's what girls do, right? They just try on wedding dresses together. So that was so weird to me. Well, that's my deep dive into Jenny's Wedding. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm going to continue doing these deep dives and analyses into other queer female media. And if you're interested in hearing my thoughts on a particular movie or something, let me know. Bye, gang.